Oh my God, I did not even ask you how to pronounce your last name. I totally just did not roll
Langer,
off the tongue.
Langer.
Abby Langer with us today. Very excited to have you with us. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing extremely well. We were just talking a bit off air that I found you through a friend of mine, Dr. Adrian Chavez, who, if you follow the podcast, he's been on a gazillion times. And if I think somebody asked him, was like, hey, like, what are some of the people that you think are a good follow? And your name came up. And since then, I've been following you, and you put out absolutely amazing content. And actually, I've seen your
Thank
account
you.
grow a whole lot
Yes.
recently, which has been unbelievable. I think right when I started following you, it's like, I don't know, maybe half of what it is now. So kudos to you. That's fantastic. You
No.
deserve it.
It seems like so slow. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I can't get more. But it's fine. To me, it's like not about follower count. It's more about the quality of the stuff that I put out there and how many people I'm helping. So it's all good.
Absolutely. I agree with that a ton. And it can feel slow. It can feel fast. I mean, I'm not really even sure that like either of us focusing on that is what really matters. It's kind of just, that's something that just hopefully happens by the nature of putting out consistent, helpful content. So, but yeah, I think you've been doing a great job. It's been awesome to watch. I only know you through your content. We haven't really gotten to know each other through social media, which I find this will be a fun, selfishly, I want to get to know you a little bit better too. So just kick us off. Sometimes somebody will come on the podcast that everybody knows in some way that's been on before, but that's not the case now. So I'd love to hear kind of just your backstory and who you are, a little bit about yourself, how you got into the space, and maybe some bit about like what you're passionate about these days.
So, okay, I'm Abby Langer. I've been a dietitian for, oh my God, like 23 years. I started out like a lot of dietitians do in hospitals, and then I went to a clinic where I did primary care for 10 years. And then in 2012, started my own nutrition communications and consulting business, Abby Langer Nutrition. I'm based in Toronto, born and bred here. And I have two daughters who are like teens and preteens, and just living the dream. Do a lot of writing. I wrote a book, Good Food, Bad Diet, for Simon & Schuster, published 2021. And, you know, I just do a lot of writing and social media work. And my whole thing is like busting myths and breaking down complex nutrition topics so that lay people can understand them.
Tell me a little bit more about what the book's about. Book's titled Good Food, Bad Diet.
Yeah. So all food is good, all diets are bad, basically. And so what my primary focus is with people who come, I don't see people, full disclosure, I don't see people for counseling anymore, but I did for years and years.
In person or virtually?
In person, yeah.
Awesome.
And sometimes virtually. But my whole thing is you cannot make lasting, meaningful change to your diet unless you deal with all the shit that's in the background first, right? So you have to kind of clean out your emotional closet and attack what I call, and well, I mean, what many people call them, but negative core beliefs. So these negative core beliefs are beliefs that are instilled in us from when we're really young, and they basically govern every decision we make in our lives, including how we eat, what we eat, you know, how we perceive food and eating. So I work a lot with people around that kind of stuff. And then we move on to sort of relearning what a healthy way to eat is, what a healthy way to think about food and eating is.
Yeah, I'm curious a little bit about what that process might look like. I'm sure there's an awareness piece of like just trying to go down a rabbit hole of asking like, where did that belief come from? Why do you think that? And what are some of the things that you feel people really grasp upon about in the past and find out, oh, this is where some of that came from?
So a lot of the stuff is from parents or somebody else saying, you know, you shouldn't eat that, you're going to get fat, or watching a parent diet. Those are two of the biggest issues, and people don't realize it's crazy how many decades someone can live their life and not make that connection between, you know, their eating habits and what they were taught early on. So, you know, once we make those connections, once people see how often they say horrible things to themselves, you know, day after day after day, and disparage themselves and just punish themselves, then that clears the way for them to make real change.
I just had Jordan Syatt on the podcast this weekend, and we were talking about he just had a daughter, and just kind of talking about, and my fiance and I are planning on starting to try and have kids this year, and it is something I think about a lot of, and that's what the topic with Jordan was like, he just became a daughter, and how has that not changed his philosophies on health and nutrition for himself, for people, and basically how do we not fuck up our kids? And I hate that word, but that's what people will say. I don't want to fuck up my kids. I don't want to fuck up my kids.
It's hard. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Totally.
Like there's nothing, and everyone's different, and all kids are different. And, so, I mean, you do your best, but the best thing that you can do is just to model good eating behavior. What does that look like? It looks like not dieting in front of your kids, not having a lot of food or any food restrictions. It looks like modeling good eating behavior, that you eat a variety of foods, and you're not like, oh, this is bad, or, oh, I'm not going to eat dessert, it's going to make me fat, or things like that. And if you have sort of an inclusive way of eating, and you have a love for your body, or even a neutrality for your body, it doesn't have to be love. You should be okay, but there's also tons of external influences, and some of that stuff you can't control.
Do you find that people that you had worked with when you were kind of working directly, doing counseling one-on-one, that this was a place that, looking backwards, is important, right? We're looking back at how we were raised, stuff that we heard, stuff that we saw, some things that were conscious or subconsciously absorbed, and now we are portraying. And do you feel like, not like that we're trying to like gamify this into some strategy, but do you find that people connecting with, whether they were parents currently, and you kind of just said, hey, the best thing you can definitely do, because nobody really knows the answer other than, hey, modeling good behavior, or modeling the behavior you would like your children to pick up on, is like the number one thing you actually can do. Do you feel like making people aware of that, for people who had children, or people who, myself, I don't have children, but I'm starting to feel like, hey, getting ahead of some of those feelings and starting to work on this shit now is a real big motivator for me? Is that like, yes, we're looking back at stuff that happened. Did you feel like I feel like that's something psychologically, it's fascinating. I'm sure there's books on this, but like, why we are just, if you ask somebody what they would want for their children, it's like this unbelievable list of stuff they wish they had wanted for themselves, or wish they did for themselves. Do you feel like that was something, that a road that you would eventually go down with people, of like, hey, this is for people that did have children, of like, hey, like, this is something that has other knock-on benefits for you getting your own shit together as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I talk to people about that online all the time. I'm like, do you really want your kids to be watching this, right? Yeah. But for most people, knowing something intellectually and actually reconciling it emotionally are two completely different things. Like, you can know that something isn't healthy for you to do, or to do in front of your kids, but all of those dieting behaviors that are so deep-seated in your brain from decades and decades and decades, they're not that easy to let go. And so it's really a process that can take a lot of work and a lot of time, but it's worth it in the end, of course.
Yeah, it would be nice if education was the gap. I mean, I know that both of us are in some ways educators, and if you come to my page, I hope you learn a fact you didn't know. I'm sure that's part of what I do, and certainly part of what you do, but it's a shame that, like, I mean, just, everyone knows cigarettes are bad, but people still pick up their first pack of cigarettes. Like, there's just not, education is not the bottleneck. It is part of the puzzle, though, for sure. Some combination of like how you say things and the amount of times you say things tends to be somewhat key in this like education space. It's like finding somebody who says something in a certain way, but then also maybe it's like, oh, I've heard this, and for the 1,000th time now it clicks, sort of thing,
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's start with some of the good. I always just like consume everything that a person has on their social media before they come on the podcast, and I picked like a couple of things that I thought were kind of summed up some things that I liked about you. And one of them was this like pencil versus eraser analogy. And I feel like we're recording this January 5th. This is a big impetus for change for a lot of people. And how can we kind of manifest this, be the pencil, not the eraser sort of analogy here, into our like New Year's resolutions and goals around health and fitness, for example?
So we're so used to starting from a place of restriction with food. Don't eat that, only eat this. And be a pencil, not an eraser, means add foods back into your diet. Stop taking them away. Start from a position of abundance, because we're so used to restricting and thinking, I can't eat that because X, or so and so told me, Gwyneth Paltrow said, whatever is bad. And I know I can't. But that just gives you a scarcity mindset and makes you want to eat those things more, and makes you, when you finally do eat them, you eat more of them, right? But starting from a place of abundance and being a pencil and adding those things back, it sort of puts all foods on an equal playing field. And you don't have that forbidden fruit syndrome where, you're dying to eat those chips that you're telling yourself you can't have. So you just, it's really a key concept that I work on with people, because it's so many people don't do it.
I think if you can totally pose this an alternative perspective, but if we're looking for like what we want for most people, first of all, that's a gross generalization, but let's say just like very general, like bare bones, good ideas would be eating like mostly minimal, a diet of like mostly minimally processed foods, of like, a good amount of fruits and vegetables and fiber and protein, micronutrient dense foods. Like mostly that stuff is good. Once you hit like the mostly that, though, there seems to be like no added benefit to like just being like this like orthorex, like I need to go all the way. And so that seems to be what we want for most people from a nutrition perspective. We want like people to take, do some form of exercise, whether that's walking or lifting or whatever, who cares? But, and so we are talking right now about the stuff we want people to do. But you could have an opposite, like kind of phrasing of that opposite rhetoric of like, don't eat too much of this. That can all kind of be true. Like, don't eat too much highly processed food. Don't not exercise. But I feel like if we're looking for people to have a shift along the spectrum of more of that stuff to more of this stuff, instead of thinking about less of those things, thinking about more of these things tends to, if the end result is similar, where somebody goes from a very processed diet, not a lot of fruits and vegetables, not a lot of protein, whatever it is, not a lot of, not a lot of enjoyment around their food, a lot of guilt around their food, and we get them to a different place. I just find that, and I'm guessing you would agree, that it's probably not just mentally a healthier way to go about it, to think about adding things, but also more likely to actually work out if you're going with this, like, hey, let's add these things that we know are probably a good idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. I mean, if you're telling people don't do this and don't do that, they're automatically going to shrink back from that.
And so if you have somebody, if we're looking at like, I don't want to make some stupid like top 5 list, but if we're looking at being the pencil, what are like generally some things that we could be looking, or buckets or places we can look to add certain things that we think on a large scale would probably be helpful?
So, are you talking about individual foods, or
no? Yeah, I think
adding.
Yeah, go ahead. More generally, probably. I think individual foods would be tough.
Yeah, no. I'm just thinking, like, because gluten and dairy are always, I used to be like, yeah, you can eat dairy. Like, people were like, oh, I can eat yogurt again. What? I'm so excited. They were just told that the dairy's inflammatory, but it's not if you're not allergic to dairy, But so things like dairy, gluten, just adding back whole grains, come on, like what legumes like chickpeas.
So you're even saying like you're speaking to like maybe adding back things that you've had a previous connotation around, or like this like negative core belief that you had said.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And or some random has told you like, it has lectins in it, so you can't eat it. Like, that's ridiculous. So things like that, but also adding back joy, adding back, the enjoyment of food, adding back eating for satisfaction, not just satiety. Those two things they're completely different, so those, focusing on, the good, and not just like trying to stuff yourself with veggie noodles and an egg white pizza because you think, oh, I'm a volume eater, I should eat like, I want to be full. Full isn't the end of the story, because if you're just full and you're not satisfied, you're probably going to go foraging in your cabinets for something 5 minutes later. Like, how about we normalize, because it has been vilified, how about we normalize eating for pleasure as well as for fuel? How about we normalize eating food as love, food as community, food as stories? Like, that food is not just fuel. Like when I see someone on social media who's like, food's just fuel, I'm like, scroll right by you, because you and I are not going to get along.
I think that's interesting. And we're going to bring up something we were going to talk about later. I want to talk about right now, though. But this idea of like the idea of being satiated versus satisfied, I would say that satisfied is the big umbrella and satiated is one part of satisfied. But I mean, every single person listening to this has eaten something that calorically, volume wise, fiber wise, like all checks all the big satiety boxes, but they haven't been left satiate, or they haven't been left satisfied. They ate something that's supposed to be satiated, but they haven't been left satisfied, which is a more complex combination of physiological and psychological, most likely. And one of the ways that we see this, but I mean, it's also physiological. I mean, they're intertwined. It's like part of being, being satisfied would be, I mean, some of those fullness feelings, they overlap, I'm sure. But one of the places we see this a ton is where people are making these like, we're going to talk about how this is a complex topic. We might not just wholeheartedly shit on it because I think it's complex, but this idea of like making high volume, healthier swaps of stuff that you can eat the whole thing now. And so you had posted literally today about some lady, I think it was like making cinnamon buns, and it was like, now you can eat the whole cinnamon bun because I made it with fucking egg whites and cinnamon and water instead of like literally anything that has any joy in it. So let's talk a little bit to this idea of like, so what you have multiple posts on this, so I know you feel strongly about it, but this idea of making these healthier versions of foods so that you can eat more. How is that? Well, how do we address that situation?
It tastes like sadness. That's what I think these desserts taste like sadness. And the whole eat the whole thing mentality is far too close to binge eating for me than I'm comfortable with as a dietitian. I mean, I think it started with Halo Top where you could eat the whole container, but
amazing marketing.
Really, like, why do you want to eat the whole container? What is it about this psychologically that's appealing to people? Because we've been starving ourselves for so long that now a whole freaking pan of cinnamon rolls, or like that are made with egg whites and sweetener and cornstarch, or like a whole pint of ice cream that tastes like death, is appealing. It's delicious. Like, is it going to satisfy you? So yes, lower calorie, higher volume foods do have their place, absolutely. But when you're telling people, oh yeah, you can make this dessert with Shakeology powder and some friggin' fat-free yogurt, like, it's gross. And that's not a way to foster a healthy relationship with food and people. It's not making people any healthier, because what it may be doing physically, which I don't think cutting those calories, it's not worth it. It's being destroyed emotionally. It's like, do you know what I'm saying? What it's doing physically for people, if anything at all, is being overtaken by the destruction it's causing emotionally to people's relationship with food and their bodies. So,
I think at best there's at best there's a slight reduction in calories in that moment at best, and that is like throwing a massive bone there. At best, you have a slight caloric reduction in that moment. And in that moment before you forage,
5 minutes later, because
before you have 12 of them and have the same amount of calories. And that to me is fascinating. The Halo Top is unbelievable marketing, because I think that there is something psychologically about I get to eat the whole thing. And I think that it's almost like it highlights this subconscious feeling in us that we never get to eat a lot of food. And now is our chance to eat a lot of food. And first of all, you're going to shit your pants for the next like 72 hours after this Halo Top anyway. But I do find that to be interesting, of like, inherently what you do, you know there's a place for volume foods. You know that the world is dealing with an obesity epidemic that on some level is thermodynamics, and on some level, we all know about that. We all get it. But this probably isn't the thing. If someone's like, hey, how did you lose weight? They're like, well, I started making this lower calorie cheesecake and that's it. It's like, and I'm not shitting on that, because like there's somebody out there who's like, I did some of those things and I felt good about it. And
there's always someone. There's always, but it's not the same, as I said this morning in my video, which you can see on my Instagram. It's not the same as saying, I'm going to eat an extra serving of vegetables at my meal because that will round it out and give me more fiber and satiety. It's like, I'm going to create this faux dessert that I now get to eat the whole thing. Now's my chance
Right.
Now's my chance to eat it all. And it's like, wow, that's disordered as fuck.
Yeah, I
Right?
agree. Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. And that, and it might not even, again, at best, in a very short term, you have a slight caloric reduction at best. And that's not even,
Right.
and people are like, people who eat a whole thing of Halo Top, if they only had Ben and Jerry's in their closet, they or in the freezer, they might have had the same calories of Ben and Jerry's, right? And so
Right.
it is go back to this like pursuit of eating a lot, pursuit of like this satiety perception, but maybe at the cost of satisfaction. And that's where
definitely.
that's where it really clicks for me, where it's like you're really trying to eat a lot of food, but you're forgetting that it might not be overall, all things said and done, volume, calories, fiber, and enjoyment, taste, mouth pleasure, all of those together and more. It might not net out to as satisfying. It might leave you just doubling down on this, like, I'm not allowed to eat X. I am now allowed to eat Y. And I'm going to, because I can eat it, I'm going to binge on it.
But then you have those people who are going to comment and they're going to say, but I would, if I had that pint of Ben and Jerry's in my freezer, I would eat the whole thing. But with Halo Top, I can eat the whole thing and it's fewer calories. And to those people, I say, why are you eating the whole container of Ben and Jerry's? There's something else going on, because it's not about hunger, it's about emotion. So if that's the case, then those feelings are what you need to work on, not by a fucking thing of Halo Top. You need to work on the emotions that are causing you to eat the way you do.
Period. It's a diversion from the root. Yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. And that's a human normal thing for us to seek out an easier problem to solve than the harder problem of digging deep in that moment to be like, well, why?
And it's hard.
It is hard.
It's often really sad. And I tell people, I have a course for women over 40 called Eating Over 40. Or Eating After 40. Sorry, I know the name of my own course. And I mentioned numerous times, if you need the help of a licensed therapist, get it, because this is really hard work and it can bring up a lot of ugly stuff. Absolutely. But once it's done, great.
And I think that is something that in my earlier years, I would not have caught on in terms of as a practitioner working with people, like, where is this bleeding over into like, this is not a calorie issue. This is not there's some information that really helps people totally, but there at some point comes a time where you need a direct discussion on this. We need to be diving deep into this. Yeah. Why is this the way you are feeling? Why? Yeah. Right. And at some point it's out of scope for a practitioner who's not a professional in this regard. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I still think it's important for you to ask those questions, but there's a moment of handing off that I think is difficult for people who are a coach to acknowledge, but there is absolutely a point in which this is out of your scope. And I don't love being out of your scope guy, but like there is a point where you
have to be out of your scope guy. I had a fight yesterday on Instagram. Wow, I know it's a shocker, right? But this girl who has absolutely no qualifications whatsoever, I don't even know if she's actually gone to school for anything, was telling someone who was she's a health coach, and she was like, maple syrup is anti-inflammatory and everything. And I'm just like, dude, like it's the same as refined sugar to your body. So that was one issue. And then one of my followers, because they know they love to irritate me, so they send me all kinds of crap. They're like, look at this person, what they're saying. This same girl was telling a diabetic that diabetes is from the dietary fat blocking. I know, it's so crazy. Dietary fat blocking the absorption of sugar into the cells. And I'm like, spoken like someone who hasn't taken a fucking physiology course in their entire life. And so I actually direct messaged her and I said, you're going to hurt somebody.
Yeah, that's not good.
Stop.
Yeah.
And she blocked me.
She immediately. Of course not.
So you know what? I'm going to make a reel about her.
Yeah.
Because of course I am. Oh, and people were sending me like screenshots of stuff that she was telling
That's
people.
Not even a complicated thing.
That's your opinion. And I'm like, it's not their
That's
opinion,
your pancreas. That's your pancreas. Yeah. That's what that is.
But it's like, but we're talking about people who don't realize the scope. And this is the state of the world today. So this is my point here. Getting back to that, it's like, you have to understand when your opinion is just an opinion and it's not science. And you don't, and if you're like on the receiving end of this information, you need to be able to figure out who is just being like a maverick and who knows their shit. Do you want, would you, I had Jen Gunter on my podcast a little while back, and she's like, would you want a maverick surgeon to operate on you? Would you want like a maverick pilot to fly you, you know, in their plane? So why are you trusting these people with your health? You don't understand their scope. So this is a whole other issue, but I needed to tell that story because I'm so flabbergasted, honestly, at the people out there giving out health advice that is potentially dangerous. And she had the nerve to actually say that I was not educated. And I have 23 years of experience and she has none. There's people are so arrogant and so like up their own ass that they have no clue. So it's crazy.
The moving of the goalposts with some of the glucose stuff is just kills me. They're like, where did maple syrup now become like anti-inflammatory? The one that kills me is like Paul Saladino, right? Paul Saladino, carnivore dude.
Oh no.
So he was like, he's like full blown carnivore, right? This is a couple of years ago, and he's just going all in on carnivore. Carbs are bad. Blood sugar excursions are literally killing every person on the planet. And then I remember him and some other people, they went to go like live with the Hadza for a bit. And they were going to live with the Hadza for like some affirmation and validation of like their own practice. And then like posted a video of the fact that like 60%, like some crazy percent of the Hadza diet like comes from honey. And they were just like, honey, it's totally different than what I've been talking about. Totally different. It's natural, is ancient. It's there. They've been doing this for millennia. Crazy. Totally natural. I'm like, yo, you are gonna have to hard backtrack on like all of your posts basically. And so he's like, nah, fuck it, I'll just go to seed oils now. He's like, I'm done with the glucose stuff because he's like, I eat white rice and honey. I'm like, you're fucking brain dead. Like,
he's totally, and like fucking put a shirt on. Like nobody wants to see that, dude. Nobody. That's
what happens when you cut out seed oils. Yeah.
Oh fuck. You know, I hope that people are realizing that he is a quack. The best was when one of his old professors,
I didn't see this.
Like, oh, you have to, did like a stitch with him. And they're like, yeah, we did learn about root cause. Like maybe you weren't there that day. It was like from his alma mater. It was amazing. Amazing.
All right. So that's been great. I want to pivot because I don't want to get through the conversation without having a little bit of a chat about the emergence of some, let's say, weight loss drugs. Let's put it in the category of that. And what I've been seeing is just a lot of an uproar, rightfully so, and I have a personal connection with this. I have a client who's been working with me for a long time who is in the process of going through with a physician, with an endocrinologist, with a specialist to figure out if she is qualified to take things like Ozempic or semaglutide or any of these drugs. Are those the same thing, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ozempic is a trade name.
That's what I thought. Okay. So one of the things that she was told is that it's difficult to get because right now there's like a big crazy push for like regular people getting this through really shady things. And then we found out that, and I will not name names. No, I know that nobody's ever going to listen to this. We found out that somebody very close to her was getting it through like a super shady. Here she is going through the correct channels. And then someone's like, oh, you don't need to do that. Just go get it through here, through like my shady.
Don't even get me started.
I'd love to get you started. Can we talk about this a little bit?
I just published something on my website a couple of weeks ago about people using Ozempic or Wegovy, whatever, same thing, for oh my God, what's the word?
Vanity.
For vanity weight loss. And people are all, I use a good weight loss. Yeah, it's great. And I do think that people who are obese and whose lives are negatively impacted in whatever which way by their weight, I do think they should have access to this. Absolutely. I'm 1,000% in support of that. But what I'm not in support of is fucking Kim Kardashian and Khloe Kardashian, and Chelsea Handler and fucking Elon Musk or whoever else having Ozempic parties and getting shot up with this drug so that they can lose weight for vanity. these medi spas, I call them out in my post. I have screenshots of like some fucking, it's like awful. They will give it to anyone. And my friend, her husband is on this for his diabetes, for his actual diabetes, and he's like, I can't get it. I can't actually get the drug now because people are assholes. They live in the Bay Area. They live in like near Atherton. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So yeah. So it's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. And it doesn't help anyone's relationship with food in their bodies. You have to be on it forever. Forever. And it's disgusting. It's actually just disgusting. It's now what was once an unattainable standard of beauty is now even more unattainable. So what are we teaching our kids? Right? Ourselves. Like, thin at any cost, like fucking projectile vomit for the next, however many years from this drug, because it does cause quite a bit of GI upset for some people. Yeah. Just to be thin, like, is that really worth it? I mean, if you are obese, fine, but for like, yeah, it's just bad. It's so awful.
It's really bad. It's really scary that this is like I want to try and find it to be analogous to like taking steroids in some way, where like these have like, I'm not saying it has like net for everybody crazy bad downsides, because obviously there are people that are taking this is going to be a very big net helpful, something that's very helpful. But if you don't have those things that would then be improved by potentially losing weight, then these are just all upside, all vanity, downside, all actual potentially health downsides. Like, this is a big deal that you're like there. This is a net improvement for people that have obesity, potentially people who have diabetes, potentially. This isn't like it's not like you can just take this. There's no downside. I'm just gonna lose a little bit of weight. Like, this is a serious thing that you're injecting into yourself.
You have to keep taking it.
Yeah. Well, you have to keep taking it if you want to keep the results. Yeah.
Like, and who doesn't? Like, what's the point,
of course.
Right? But like, you have to keep taking it, and yeah, it hasn't been tested in normal weight people. So what are you doing to your body? Do you really want to lose those last 10 or 20 pounds so badly that you're willing to subject yourself to some shady practitioner who's like in a medi spa who isn't your doctor, who's not going to follow you closely? Like, there are some potentially fatal side effects that you can experience with these medications that need to be you need to be followed. Yeah, like your potassium level. Like, what if you vomit and shit yourself a million times and like you die from a heart attack? That happens, right? I don't know if it's happened with these medications, but it's the potential, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know how we got here. I sure wish we would leave this place.
I mean, it's the same place we've always been. This is just a new weapon that's extremely powerful. And so it's just not anything new. We've been glorifying this elite level of thinness forever. Now we just have a really powerful way of getting there. The one thing I would maybe just like to speak to in general is the stigma around some of these weight loss drugs for people who might actually need them or might actually benefit from them. Like, something I think gets under discussed is the actual physiological genetic differences that predispose. It's like the biggest predictor of obesity, by the way, is genetics. And so it is the biggest thing that of all the factors you could say that environmental factors, like more of like a nurture, external variables that are relevant. The number one factor is genetics. And so I feel like people just like are misunderstanding this idea of like, oh, this person, these weight loss drugs are just, an easy way out, that these people don't have willpower. It's like, do you guys not understand there's a huge genetic differences between this person potentially, or just like the population with obesity at large on average, and like a person who struggles 0% to maintain a healthy body weight? This is not a fucking willpower competition. These people actually can benefit from this. It has nothing to do
with willpower. Right. So it has nothing to do with willpower. And so many people love to oversimplify a complex situation by being an asshole and saying, oh, just move more and eat less. Like, no, if that worked for the majority of people, so many people would not be overweight. There is a huge section of the population where that doesn't work. and they're, for whatever reason, and they should 100% have the access to these drugs. Spencer Nadolsky, who works for Sequence, which is a program that gives these drugs, and legitimately so, says that the newer ones are literally as good as weight loss surgery, which is amazing. I think obesity is a disease. I'm sorry to say. I know some of my RD colleagues don't agree with me, but it is, and it really can affect people's lives negatively, and it's not because you love food. People
I fucking
aren't
don't
obese
give me this
because
I
they
love food thing.
love
Oh,
food.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's just not about that. It's not about food, okay? And just like anorexia is not about food, right? It's like all of these other factors, but like these people should have the opportunity to make a choice: weight loss surgery, whatever else, Ozempic. The more options we have to treat this, the better. It is absolutely not taking the easy way out. And people who say that are fucking assholes. I'm sorry. And I did actually in one of my posts online, I did interview someone who had weight loss surgery, and she's like, I hate when people say it's the easy way out. It's not easy. And these people have been struggling for years. It's not like you struggle for a week and then you decide to have weight loss surgery or go on Ozempic. It's like a lot of these people have been struggling their entire lives with they deserve an effective way of reducing their weight.
I think people misunderstand how these people are struggling. I think people misunderstand that if like what semaglutide or Ozempic are, what they're doing is suppressing appetites. Essentially, like what's the end product of this? And if you just take that one tiny variable of satiety, like there is a huge difference between, let's say, somebody who has obesity, or again, on average across large populations, between like the levels of satiety signaling, And so if I eat X amount of calories, you eat X amount of calories, my brain is going to register a higher level of satiety. I will feel more full than you. If you took somebody who like had no problem losing their, keeping like let's say a normal, their body weight in a normal range, and I make you 10% hungrier on average and 10% less satiated per calorie on average, I promise you are going to gain weight over time. That's a fact. Now, that is what's happening to these people among a million other variables, but they're hungrier than you are. They're less satiated per calorie than you are. And then there's a whole host of other reasons as well. But this is just one variable. I promise you bring me somebody with elite genetics, we make you 10% hungrier, 10% less satiated per meal, you will gain weight over time. And then you'll be in the same position of like, well, it's just a willpower thing. It's like, it's not. It's just not. This is.
And then I'll tell you to eat less and move more and see how you react.
Motherfucker, I'm hungrier than you. That's just it. I'm hungrier than you. Like, it's just, it's not that simple, but it is, it's not that simple, but it is one variable that I think is, and that's what one of my clients went through. And I thank whichever God for the experience that she had in going to the doctor, who was like totally on top of this discussion of like not stigmatizing it, totally like, giving some kind of analogy to a diabetic who needs insulin, that there's like something that we are like, this is like something physiological. It's not your fault, you know?
It's not your fault. If you had a broken arm or if you had diabetes, you would treat these things, right? So why are we not treating obesity with the same respect? We're just telling people to just eat less. I had a friend who went to a doctor to ask for a referral for weight loss surgery. And this person 1000% qualifies as a dietitian. I know this. And the doctor said, you don't have a weight problem, you have a fridge problem.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
I told her to report him.
Yeah.
It's like nothing.
We have to, at least if we're just playing the other side, not the far other side, but like, are there lifestyle variables that people can do independent of taking weight loss medication to help their position? Absolutely. Of course. This is totally
and therapy, true. Like there's all these things.
Qualifying for the drug actually requires that you have, there's actually like, requirements of like, you have to have worked on lifestyle factors. You have to have, so it's like, yes, there are lifestyle variables. I'm not saying there's nothing these people can do. I'm not saying that. Just saying that it's more complicated, that it's a marriage between these two things, and that there just are people who are at a genetic and environmental disadvantage, that this is extremely amazing. It's an amazing thing that we cannot stigmatize.
And if there's a potential for these people to improve their lives and to be happy, then why are we not supporting that? You know what I mean? It's a gift. Like, we should be supporting that because everybody deserves to be happy. Everyone deserves to live their best lives. Everyone deserves to live the life to the fullest, right?
Yeah. What if Kim says that? If Kim's like, yeah, me too. I deserve to take this shot in my body every day, shit and throw up every day.
Fuck off,
Yeah,
Kim.
fuck the fuck
And
off. Jesus
Chloe.
Christ.
I
Who is
know.
that lady who brought it's like a video that's going around. This like, I don't even know who it was. This like lady who brought like this like cupcake to like her like family party or something. And it's just like, oh, you maybe made a post about it. Some famous person. I don't know who it is. Have you seen this?
Oh, this woman, and then people were shitting on me for it. Leah Remini like posted this woman who's like, I brought my own dessert to your dinner party. It has maple syrup in it, or coconut sugar. You know, it's good, and it's with my dietary restrictions. And I'm just like, you've got an eating disorder, lady. Or I shouldn't say that. This is disordered behavior, and like, work on yourself. But people were like, "You're a bitch." I always get like that kind of, I bring my own food, but I have food allergies. Okay, well, that's a different story.
Totally, yeah. There's I know that Flav City is a.
Oh no,
it's a Pandora's box. But just speaking about that moment where I can only do one of him. I think I have like two of real stitches of him, but he was just like talking about sugar, and he was like, don't have sugar in any form, don't have turbinado sugar, don't have this sugar, don't have that sugar. And then he cuts to like the next thing. He's like, here's what I recommend: coconut sugar, agave, maple syrup. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, like what did you just say? Like, and that's what that lady said. She's like, there's coconut sugar in here. I'm like, it's the same fucking thing.
I know. And again, it's an example of someone going well beyond their scope of home cook.
Is that what it's called? Where did he come from? Yeah. Thin air. The Costco back warehouse. like, oh shit.
Listen, he has no qualifications whatsoever. And my friend, she like challenged him, food science babe, and he's like, if you want research studies, you need to go. She's amazing. He's like, you need to go to another site if you want research. I'm doing, this, like, fucking me.
You're doing what? You're doing
nothing. Nothing. And he's like, oh my God, he's a home cook. That's it. And he's built, and he uses his daughter like in his videos, and it's like, oh my God. I hope she fucking sues him one day.
It's tricky. The daughter shit kills me lately. I'm like, Jenna was like, oh, his daughter's so cute. And I'm like, that's what he wants you to think.
Yeah, I hope she does a tell-all book. I'm just waiting when she grows up.
Yeah, one's tough. That one's a really tough one. The daughter cook thing is tough. Yeah. Well, you don't want to have.
Well, he's like using her for clicks. That's disgusting, and she can't even give her consent.
I know. It's a dark place. He's a dark place.
Yeah, he is.
Do you feel that as what you do, that you tend to like follow a lot of, I hate giving people like that algorithmic benefit, but like sometimes it like keeps me, I need to keep my flame, like them. Anger. Like, people send it to you enough.
People send me these things. And so I have no shortage of material, but I find that for my own mental health, I literally can't follow any of these people because I get like, this shit keeps me up at night.
Oh yeah.
Because I get so angry. And like the other day with that girl who like has no credentials and was like talking to diabetics about their diabetes, I was like inflamed because I was just like, how do I stop this person? She's gonna hurt someone. But she has the confidence. These people have like the confidence to give such bad information. So I just like I just wait for people to send it to me, then I go from there.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. What I ask a lot of people this question, and we've had many discussions of, but like just throwing your own sense in the fire here. Like, what are some things that people can look out for in terms of like finding good information or being alarmed at potentially? I had a client today who's a good friend. We are in constant communication, and she was like, hey, what do you think of this person? Or what do you think of this book this person wrote? Yeah. She's a naturopath that's throwing up red flags for me. And it's like, what are some of the things that you might have that, tell this person, like, hey, look out for this, this, and this, or how do we navigate that scenario so we don't fuck things up too bad?
I think that anyone who is making promises that seem too good to be true, Anyone who is saying, eat this one ingredient and it will change your life, or this one supplement will change your life, like that's not kosher. Anyone who is giving advice and selling their own line of supplements is weird, or seem to be using their MD credential or even their RD credential. There are some black sheep, to sell their own line of supplements. Anyone saying there's like a cleanse or a detox, a reset, boosting your metabolism, all of that stuff is bullshit. Anyone selling any kind of like Dutch test or food sensitivity test, forget about it. Those are bullshit. Anyone saying that a food that is whole and that we've been eating for years is now toxic, like chickpeas or tomatoes or dairy or grains, they're all bullshit too. Those people are, yeah.
There's a lot of things to be aware of, unfortunately.
Oh, that's just a short list.
Yeah. Do you ever feel a combination of, I would bet mostly the latter, but a combination of I'll always be in business, but a depression about that, like that's like depresses me too sometimes, honestly.
Yeah, it feels like overwhelming, I think, a lot of the time, which is another reason why I don't follow these people. It's overwhelming and it's sad, like that people are actually saying this shit that's so obviously wrong and saying it with such confidence. They have millions of followers. It's sad.
Yep. Are there any people that you like that are like tip of the tree, like up there with Flav City, that are just like the worst offenders of science? Like
the medical medium.
Yeah, medical medium. But are we past him though? Are we not past him? No, come on.
I hope so, but
he's a meme, right? I mean, he's got to be a meme by now.
Listen, he is a fucking charlatan beyond. Like, I don't have any. And whenever I post about him, people just rip me.
No,
he changed my immune system. Oh
it's my God. Him behind a screen with like 400 different fake accounts coming at you.
Oh my God, and Stephen Gundry, same thing. Stephen Gundry, terrible. Chris beat cancer. He's a fucking stain. Like that one just.
Oh shit.
That's Uncle Buck. That movie.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I know. Yeah, those people are. That one with the bone broth.
All of them.
Dr. Kellyanne.
Oh jeez. Food babe for me was like just one that she's just like one of the, and I know we're just like on here like ranting about people now, but I'm okay with that. I'm not really worried about that. I think people need to be aware of these names. Sometimes people are like afraid to like say names. Like, you're full of shit. I'm sorry, this person's full of shit. Food babe once was like, I always die at this post. It's stuck in my mind. And she was like, really quick, healthy morning shake. And it was like, the emphasis was like on how quick and easy this was. And it started with her like going into her like homemade garden and like plucking out the ripe herbs and then like sniffing them and then cutting them and then taking the lemon and then doing it. It was like 45 minutes in a food processor. And I'm like, none of this is either practical, and all of the prefixes of non-inflammatory and non-toxic that you've attached to these ingredients is out of fucking control. To give you 45 minutes to make a morning shake is wild.
I know. And Gabrielle Reese, she's a volleyball player. I don't know if she plays still. She fucking had Food Babe on her feed a couple of weeks ago. And I commented, and I'm like, why are you giving this person airtime? Everybody knows that she is full of shit. Like, and she's blocked me, obviously. Yeah. But like, she just, people who block everybody who disagrees with them, they're the worst too. They're terrible. And
I try not to comment because there'll be other people that I'm like, I'll like write out a long comment like therapeutically, and then I save it in a document and I like just package it away for a later date, because I know if I put this on here, then I'll get blocked. And I'm like, I kind of want to follow you because it's key. I know that I respect where you're at, but at this moment I'm like, it fuels my fucking fire. And so that's like, I'll keep a couple of people on hand to make sure I'm like perpetually pissed off enough to like keep doing good work. But it's pretty crazy stuff. Cool. Cool. I want to be respectful of your time. We're coming up on an hour here. It's been super duper fun. It was really, really a wonderful chat. Why don't you tell people where they can find you? Just plug everything you got and I'll throw it all in the show notes.
Yeah, thanks. So it's Abby Langer Nutrition on Facebook. at Langer Nutrition on Instagram, Abby Langer Nutrition on TikTok. I don't do Twitter anymore.
How's your TikTok game?
I hate TikTok.
Do you just repost your reels, or TikTok's frightening?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can anymore.
You know what's frightening? Twitter. I was like on the receiving end of like some major anti-Semitic rants and shit. Oh yeah, it was like just disgusting. I said to my husband, I'm just gonna shut my account. And he's like, don't change your account. You have all these followers. And I'm just like, I just can't do it anymore. Like it's just so bad. But so don't go looking for me on Twitter. You're not going to get that much. I have my Eating After 40 class, which is starting January 23rd, and it's mostly women. I know my brain. And you can find that on my site or DM me or whatever. That's it. That's all. Just find me online. I'm everywhere.
Awesome. And again, for the record, Abby's just like unbelievable follow. It's super duper fun. If you like my content or just people that have been on podcasts, she's right up your alley. She's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks again.